When people think something is wrong, they become offended, right? And then they become defensive after they become offended. And then the war starts. But without no offense being taken, without no defense being instituted, there is no war. Thus, Lao Tzu said, no one can contend with the wise man because he doesn't contend, right? Thus Jesus said, don't resist evil, turn the other cheek. Why would Jesus say not to resist evil? That's always been something that's perplexed my mind, because we see evil as evil and something that ought to be gone to war with and overpowered, right? Okay. Why not? Why does he say don't resist evil? Well, consider that it's not real, and you can't. You can't win a war fighting something that's unreal. It's our notion of wrong. This all started way back with Adam. He had a notion of wrong. He had a notion that God was withholding something from him. While all along God is withholding nothing from him, God had given him everything, breathing his very life into him. His heart, God's heart was always, and still is, always will be with Adam. Right? And if we say that we really believe that all things work together for the good, then what's really wrong? See, this is the real gospel. The real gospel is that there's nothing wrong. There's never been anything wrong. That our illusions and delusions of being wronged and taking offense and becoming defensive is the root of the problem. And that heaven can be brought to earth by seeing through those notions, accepting and bringing love to whatever we encounter, rather than fighting it, right? This isn't about overpowering, this is about overcoming. This isn't about conquering. This is about winning hearts. And we can look at the early Christians when they were being persecuted, thrown to lions, and tied to stakes and burnt alive and crucified, and because other people seen what they were doing and believing as being wrong, right? And they took offense to the Christians. And they became defensive and became of ill will towards them and persecuted them. Yet when we look at the text of that time and the history that was recorded on numerous occasions, more times than not, I dare say, the Christians accepted what was coming to them. They didn't see it as wrong, but they seen it as an opportunity to glorify God, and died with smiles on their faces, in perfect peace, in bliss. They suffered without suffering because they didn't see what they were encountering during that persecution as something that was bad or wrong. They had this notion that it all works for our good, rather than I'm being depreciated or something's being taken from me by this experience, by this relationship that I'm having with the people and the world around me. And when we see through the facade of being wrong, then evil takes on a whole new meaning. Evil is not what we always thought it was. Rather, evil is the very notion that there is evil, if you can understand that. The evil is the very notion that there is something evil out there. And that's all it is a notion. It's a lie. It's a lie. Thus, Jesus called Satan, the devil, the father of lies. The devil is the incarnation, the notion of wrongness that has come into the flesh, that has come in the flesh, that has manifested itself in the wars and the rumors of the wars and the famines and all this stuff, and that man brings on himself by his resistance to the very natural and pristine and immaculate and innocent world that he was put into. He tries to change it because he sees something wrong with it. He sees something wrong with work, so he must work at making things convenient. Fast food, fast cars that pollute the body and the atmosphere. But here again, we don't want to bring that notion of that even being wrong. It is what it is. Anytime we label what is as being wrong, we enter into a delusion. Because things are only wrong for the time that they're in, right? It's how we define things with time. We look at eating a horse in times of famine and to survive, and there's probably nothing wrong with that, right? You need to. But eating the horse that plows the fields during times of abundance will only lead to famine when there's no harvest because the fields weren't plowed, because there's no horse. And we might say, well, that's wrong. And perhaps it is in its time, but eternally, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. Because life will take that situation and turn it around and make it right. So we don't even need to resist it. We just need to let it flow. We don't stop war by fighting the people that are trying to defend themselves. All we do is enter into it. The way we can overcome wars is by letting the fire burn itself out, for one thing. If you let people go their own way, then they suffer. They reap the fruits of their own devices. In Proverbs it says that God will turn people over to their own devices. In the New Testament it says that he'll turn them over to their reprobate mind. Why does he do this? Because he knows that that will lead to suffering, and that suffering in turn will eventually cause them to awaken, see. And then when they see the folly and the vexation of the spirit, the pain that that brings, they'll abandon it when they come back to their senses, when sanity returns. And they seeing it, make that decision, that wise decision to stop fighting with it all. Let things be and just be. Let things be and just be. See, even yourself, not just letting the world around you be, but you too. Let things be and you just be. Just be. Why do I say that? Because really there's no difference. There's really no difference. It's only the mind that makes the differences. The yolk and the white and the shell of the egg are not separate. They're all one egg. The trees and the chicken that lays the egg. And the men that walk upon the face of the earth. Everything that inhabits the earth. It's the earth. It's one world. One earth. And the universe in which the earth has its yoke is one universe. And the world is not separate from the universe, and the chicken in the world is not separate from the universe. And the egg that the chicken lays within the world that is within the universe, none of it separate. They're all like that one egg. And the universe that is in the mind of God that contains the earth and the chicken that lays the egg and the egg. It's all one. So we see Jesus throughout the Gospels consistently making statements that allure and lead us to the realization and the desire of God for us to awaken to that oneness. That we are with His very body, the body of creation. That He breathes His Spirit into. See, because we're all one body, of being itself. We're all one body that shares. The common framework of being made or created by God, allowed to be by God. He said, let there be, right? When we see that in reality, that everything that exists is really here, that the truth is the only thing that truly is. The truth is the only thing that really is, right? Consider that a moment. The truth is the only thing that really is. So if the truth is the only thing that really is, what is there to fight with, contend with, besides the truth of who you are, right? When you finally understand that at a visceral level, at a gut level, when you finally grok that, it's like there's this peace that comes over you. Your mind settles down. It's not always trying to figure out the way out, the way in, because the way out and the way in are the same. There's no difference. There's no boundary line between heaven and earth that separates them. They're one. They're one. Being one with everything, I come to peace. I lose all fear. Because I've returned to sanity in knowing that, right? The sane man, the one who is sane, goes about, I'm walking right now with my staff in my hand, and I don't fear my feet. I'm not worried about my foot coming up and kicking me in the ass. Just ain't going to happen. I'm not worried that my hand's going to start smacking me in the face, that it will take offense at my face. This ain't going to happen. If I thought so, I'd be at war with myself. And all our problems arise out of that. We think there's something separate. And we go to war with ourselves. And when we see the folly of that, we return to sanity. We stop that. We stop worrying about our hand smacking us in the face. A hand stops worrying about the face doing something to offend it. The foot stops worrying and fretting that the ass has done something that needs to be kicked out. Right? But when we allow ourselves to settle into being that one body of being, that one word that God has spoken, that one thought that God has thought that encompasses everything, And it's one thought, it's one word, because God's not double-minded. His heart's not divided. And it's a matter of settling into that oneness by just relaxing, untensing ourselves, unsquinting our eyes. Stop contracting inside of ourselves and building these layers of defense, this armor of this false self, this ego, this imagined self around us, and becoming soft and pliable and gentle and meek. And allowing ourselves to be that. Because that's the fruit of what comes out of what we really are. That's the fruit of what comes out of what we really are. That's the fruit of the Spirit of truth. What comes out of that Spirit of truth are the fruits of the Spirit, the manifestations of being. Joyful, peaceful, loving, kind, gentle, meek. And so Jesus talks about pruning the tree so that it bears more of that, so that more of that's produced. And what's being pruned from the tree is that false self, that imagined self that is separate from the Spirit of truth that's innate within it. Right? If we take away all the notions and beliefs and stuff of separation, we bear those fruits. We manifest those fruits. They're hidden in the world. They're that pearl's great price. They're that treasure hidden in the field. What is this world? This field of the world that they're hidden in? It's the field of this world. This world of notions, this world of beliefs, this world of I know it all. That world. Its own little world. Its own little world, separate from the one body of creation. And so what we're invited to is not something outside of us. It's within us. We're invited to come into communion and consummate our relationship with that Spirit of truth that's within us. So thus Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within you. It's within you. It's there. It's buried underneath all that world. This isn't real. And so we have to shed that world the way that a kernel of corn sheds its hard outer kernel and lets that die and fall away so that the new life can come out of it. Then that kernel of corn, which was a barn once, is born again. And what's it being born? Not in anything separate than what it already is. It's being born back into what it's always been. It's not coming out of the womb to come back into the womb and come back out of it again. It's a coming back into being itself. The sanity of being what you truly are. It's that. Consider that. Consider these things. Love you guys. Bless you. Bless you. I like blessing you because I bless myself. Namaste. Godspeed.